Yes.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry from the Blue Collar Nation podcast. I'm with here with my prepenseful business partner, the tech whisperer, Mr. Eric Sprague. What's happening today, Eric?
Can you spell that word for me?
You know, you always have to look it up. It means deliberate and intentional. And it's very accurate because you're very deliberate and intentional. So far today, we've got to spend a lot of time together, which is kind of wearing me out. So your deliberateness has worn me out. But prepense, Prepense.
All right.
Everybody's word for the day.
So
I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
It's only 10 a.m. my time. I've already worn you out.
Yeah, well, we had a couple hours together, so it's all good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get on to more interesting stuff than my prepensiveness.
Prepensive behavior.
Yeah.
We have a sponsor for the show. Eric, play that track. We want to hear Michelle's voice. And we have an amazing show with the real expert. We're so happy. She is dialed. She has schooled us in how to present her material already. We're very excited. She's a thought leader in the industry of insurance, which doesn't sound exciting, but today I am sure it's going to be exciting. She has a different approach that we can all benefit from. And we have Kate Krebsbach from Restoration. She's a restoration insurance enthusiast, fourth generation restoration insurance agent. Her life goal is to make insurance less annoying. How cool is that? I just want to applaud that. And it is so happy to have you today with us. How are you today, Kate?
I am so fabulous. Thank you for having me, you guys.
I love that. Make insurance less annoying.
Exactly. And she's got checklists for us, and she's got a short course for us on how to negotiate better insurance. So if everybody's thinking, oh, this is going to be insurance, it's going to be boring, not a chance. This is going to be really helpful for everybody. It's going to be fun, exciting. And I gave Eric a Red Bull before there, so he'll be exciting too. So we're going to have a good talk today. It's going to be wonderful.
So you're saying the only way I can have a good talk is I have to have a Red Bull?
Well, it makes you a little bit more exciting, generally speaking.
You guys, you use the tools you're given, okay? We just work with what we've got.
Yeah, I know.
Larry thinks Larry thinks I'm just like some big stick in the mud, just so you know.
Yin and yang.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
It doesn't yin or yang anymore than our relationship. All right. Well, Kate, thank you for coming on, number one. But number two, before we get into the nitty gritty, why don't you tell everybody your background? Because look, all the listeners like to know who they're talking to. They want to know where they're from. They want to know what they like when they're not working. Like, why don't you give everybody like your deal?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Long-time listener, first-time caller over here. And
wow.
my name is Kate. My maiden name is Scully, and that's the name of our insurance agency, Scully Insurance, like the X-Files. And I am just outside of Chicago. So I'm born and raised in the Chicago area. I've lived a couple of places. My grandpa on one side was a local 134 electrician. And then my grandpa on the other side was in the insurance business. And so I, 5 years ago, followed my dad and my uncle and now my cousin into our insurance business world, the exciting world of insurance, which no one has ever said. But
so hold on, you can't just gloss over that. Were you like trying to avoid being in the insurance business? Like,
I'm super lucky. I'm super fortunate. So I'm the oldest. I have a sister, and my dad was approaching a milestone birthday, and I was like, hey Dad, what's the plan? All your friends are retiring. What's going on? You like to golf, life's pretty good. And he goes, oh, I'd love for you to join me in our business. And I was not expecting that response. And we talked for a while, and I'm sure maybe some other folks that are listening can appreciate figuring out if you want to join your family or what that will do to Thanksgiving dinner.
Sure.
And we took about a year to talk about it. I had some really good advice from some other friends who work with their families. And I was like, what the heck do you talk about all day? And what do you do? And who do you work with? And all I know is where your office is. And I need to figure out more about this whole business. So
all I know is where your office is. That sounds like my kids when it comes to our business. They're just like,
Yeah.
what do
you know
you
what you
two
know,
do?
you know what you're exposed to, right? So yeah, that was about 5 years ago. And I have a great salesperson for a father, and I have two subject matter experts at my disposal, my uncle and my dad. So my great grandpa started our firm back in the 20s, where people did a lot of different things at that time, but the insurance part stuck. And so we're independent agents. Basically, just we work with a number of insurance companies. So we represent a variety of insurance companies. I'm sure a lot of the folks that are listening are on the other side of the business, where they're also working with insurance companies, adjusters, etc. So that's what we do. Let's see, I am married. I have a 2.5-year-old. And when I was in our business, I kind of took some inventory of like our clients. I'm like, okay, well, what do we know? What do we talk about? The world of generalists is kind of a little bit passe. And who can I help? Like, what expertise do I have at my disposal, essentially? And I realized that we work with a lot of restoration and home contractors. And
So
workers
your
comp.
book of business was already heavy in that.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And we do a lot of different things, but we're mostly on the business insurance side. All of our clients are private business owners. So we also can do their personal insurance if they just want a one-stop shop. But when I was looking at the business insurance side of things, I was like, guys, we know a decent amount about this space, and we know what ICRC is, and what's the difference between restoration and mitigation, and what that means for the bottom line for a business owner.
Yeah.
So I just kind of said, I'm going to take this and run with this, and Googled podcasts and restoration, and here we are, full circle. But
Kate, you need to trademark like the restoration insurer, or so. Like Ed Cross is the restoration attorney. You need to be the restoration.
Yes,
insurer.
exactly. Well, yeah, exactly.
You better
So
talk to Ed and get that trademark going.
about that.
Yeah. It's all branding.
So no, thank you. Look at you guys, just multifaceted, giving tips and tricks left and right. Branding,
tips and tricks.
No tips and tricks. Not allowed.
No tips and tricks. Yeah, Michael Gerber got on one of our buddies quite aggressively about that. He doesn't do tips and tricks is a bad thing. It was very entertaining listening to that.
Have you ever read the E-Myth, Kate?
No.
The book, the E-Myth. Okay, that's like required reading.
All right, on the list.
Yeah.
And Michael Gerber's a genius, but he's also known for being a little cranky. And he was on our friend's podcast, and our friend said, "Can you give us some tips and tricks?" And he goes, "I don't do tips and tricks."
Stay in your lane. I appreciate that.
So
yeah,
no tips and tricks. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, no tips and tricks. Stricken from the record. Done and done.
Just in case it ever comes up, we have him on the podcast. We're lucky, which we might real soon. I'm trying to line that up. We got to take that out of vernacular. We can't use that at all.
All right. Okay. Well, if you need to get it out of your system, you guys just call me, and then you'll be done.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. So as you started to go down the road of like, okay, I'm going to pick this restoration industry vertical and I'm going to run with it. Like, what was your process? Like, how'd you start? How'd you begin?
Well, I was thinking about what can I do that will just benefit someone. Like you guys are all about education, and you've seen success from that, and I know your clients have too. And I was just like, there's this whole world behind the scenes that no one understands about insurance, and you usually hopefully have an advocate as an agent or a resource on your side, but to know, we just live in the world of everything's accessible. You Google something, Amazon's at your door in 2 hours. Like, there's a lack of transparency, in my opinion, about what I have control over as a business owner. So I was like, instead of just calling on, new businesses or existing businesses and saying, hey, are you so unhappy with your current agent that you want to make a change? Or has stuff gone so terribly wrong that you just are like desperate for help? Or has your agent just retired and moved to warmer climates and now you have no idea how to get a hold of anyone to get a freaking certificate of insurance? I was just like, why don't I
That happens.
help?
We've been there.
Yeah, I was gonna say that just resonated with Larry and I.
Yeah. So I was just like, why don't I just help people understand what they have control over, or what goes into this underwriting process behind the scenes, pull back this like curtain, let's see the Wizard of Oz, and does it make sense for me to help guide them? And if they are interested and they're savvy and they're using, they're thoughtful about what they want their future to be of their company, maybe then we'll find alignment. So that was kind of my MO of just, let's just do something a little bit differently. And what's the worst case scenario? No one listens, doesn't work. Okay, then we go back to square one. So that's where, for someone so specialized in a hazard related business, if they're the experts, like, I just want to be an extension of their team and be that expert when they really need some help, from a negotiation standpoint, from a expertise, from just knowing what's happening in the market. I mean, I've never received a call being like, I'm just so thrilled with my insurance, I just wanted to share that with you. But if I can be a resource for someone who's just like, there's got to be another way, I'm like, happy to be here. Just know I'm available.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, to be honest, I think long term, it's an easier sell for you to be an expert in one thing versus like, hey, do you want me to insure your cupcake shop?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Because at that point you're a commodity. You don't really, I mean, I hate to say this, and you don't add as much value as if you become really good at one thing. And, because Larry and I were always, as contractors, we were always looking for that, like, who's our abatement company and who's our rep at the abatement company who, when we're in a bind, we can call that person. Who's our environmental testing company and who there is going to be our resource when we don't understand something. Like, there has to be more value than just what I buy.
Absolutely. I think of it as building your own board of directors, even if you don't have a board of directors, right? It's like, first of all, who understands my business and really understands that these are my challenges or this is what my goal is. And if someone is unfamiliar, you're just not going to be in the most ideal spot. So that would probably be the biggest thing, especially for anyone who is maybe moving into a new industry. Maybe they want to be a business owner and they've decided to go the franchise route, or they're taking over this business from their family. Or maybe they were only doing, like you guys, they were only doing carpet cleaning, but now they're getting into some mold, and mitigation work. Like, just who you've had in the past doesn't always put you in the best spot for the future. And I just want to encourage people to know that, like, there is a lid for every pot. And I know that's an old saying, but it's really true. And in the insurance space, there's changes happening all the time. And in dirtier or higher risk businesses, from an underwriting perspective, there's companies that are saying, you know what, we just haven't been profitable. We're getting out. It has nothing to do with you. It's not you, it's me. But you don't want to be in that bind. And if someone on the agent side only has one or maybe two markets to go to, and they don't really understand who's the best in your space to be a true resource when a claim does come in, you're just not set up for that success in the way that is available to you. So I just want to encourage people to know, like, it's okay. You're specialized. You're specialized as a contractor. Like you deserve to work with someone who understands your industry.
Okay. Well, speaking of that,
Especially if you have a problem, they know how to navigate it. You can help them navigate the problems. Go
yeah.
ahead, Eric.
So, well, I was going to say, in that same vein, what do you think the unique challenges restorers face when it comes to insurance?
Oh man. Well, first of all, especially if there's any sort of contractual requirements in place, you are limited to a number of really specialized markets when it comes to your general liability, your pollution, your professional. Like if one of your techs doesn't dry something thoroughly, it was an oversight, it was an error. And as a result, molds is starting to creep up when you're trying to prevent that from happening and you get named in suit. You really want to make sure that you're not just buying something that was just inexpensive. You really want to make sure that the insurance company is first line of defense for you, because that could totally disrupt your entire operations. It could prevent you from buying another truck if you have to pay out of pocket. It could prevent you from hiring and taking on new jobs, from growing, from bringing on a new territory partner. So just first of all, I think knowing that you're in the right spot, and I know I'm like beating a dead horse a little bit, but knowing that you are in a place where they're actually going to do what they say and the contract reads in your favor, that's really important. And that's not necessarily a business owner's responsibility, but to have a trusted advisor, just like your accountant or your attorney, I think is really key. And man, hiring right now, I mean, should we just have set up a second call to have another podcast about hiring? But like what you guys are doing from a culture perspective, I mean, the longevity of bringing people on and making sure that they know this is a place they want to be and they're not going to leave for a couple of dollars more down the road, and really treating people well and establishing that culture, that's a lot of what the insurance company is looking at. What's the turnover? How much control does an owner or does an operator have when these people are not in an office? They're out in the field, they're at different job sites. Control is a
huge amount of liability. I've always said that
yeah.
for anybody of our service businesses, to sending people out in the field with our equipment, with our trucks, with our machinery, unsupervised. It's a big liability. I mean, there's obviously money to be made, and we've been living that for a long time, but it is one of the big things.
Kate, I
It's a challenge.
remember
That's what you're
we would have our morning huddle. Like, I mean, what Super Tech University is now was just our morning meeting. Like, that's all. We were doing this already, like in our service business. And I remember, we'd have truck lineup because we wanted everybody to look right. We'd make sure that everybody's van was loaded for the stuff that they needed for that job. So we'd have all these vans like just clogging up the entire parking lot of our office complex, which everybody hated us for. But, as they would all start pulling out, Larry would often look at me and be like, this is the scariest part of the day for me. Because, well, no, you used to say that because you're like, as these, 20 guys roll out, like they're driving all over Southern California. Like that's our biggest risk. And he was not wrong. It was our biggest risk in a lot of ways. Right.
And also your name's on the side of that truck, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's you are a driving billboard for how your team is operating while they're on site at a client location in the field. So to that point, and it is everyone, I would encourage everyone listening, if you are responsible or even involved at all from a operations or risk management perspective of your business, treat yourself to an umbrella, to excess liability. In the event, God forbid, someone's involved in an accident, and it could be your employee, it could be someone else. I mean, we live in a very litigious world right now and have been for many years. Just the most reasonable way to protect your business and carry on the legacy of what you've built is to have extra layers of liability, and that can be secured through an umbrella or excess liability policy. And many attorneys that we partner with and talk to say they're not going to come, they're not going to come after your personal assets. If there's enough defense coverage, and again, you're not paying this out of pocket. You have an attorney behind the scenes on your side in the event there is an accident. And a lot of this can be prevented, but how many times do we all drive down the road and you see 2 or 3 accidents on your way to, Starbucks? So it's just making sure that you have all of the measures in place to really protect yourself so you can focus on growing your business and doing a good job. And that, I don't know that that's necessarily going to take the worry away, but at least that you've got everything buttoned up, right?
Yeah.
When those 20 trucks roll out, that maybe you've thought, okay, well, we're going to need to have a sell policy in place. That all of your team members are privy to being thoughtful, getting enough time to get to the job. They're not going to be rushing. They've got water. They've already had breakfast. They've already worked out in the morning. They're in the right mindset to get there safely.
Well, we're hoping that, Kate. It's usually 2 monsters, pack of Marlboro Reds, and a bag of Doritos.
I mean,
Not necessary.
I didn't work out this morning, so I can't judge.
No, I'm being funny. I mean, look, some guys it's that, but yes, Larry and I were always pushing that. Like, hey, get up early, eat breakfast, bring water. We bought everybody like jugs for water. And then we put a reverse osmosis water machine in so they could, nobody was leaving our shop in Southern California to go do manual labor all day without at least a half a gallon.
A lot of water. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if the team member has a family and their MO is to get home safely and make a decent living, like if you're all on that same page. And also I will say, and I know you guys had morning meetings every morning, but I know we joked about consistency, but consistency is key. Culture is not going to be changed in a day. But I also think that you deserve credit where credit is due. If you're putting in this work and you're aware and you're a savvy business owner and you're thoughtful about building your culture to protect your retention, your employee retention, but also to continue to build your business, have good reviews. All of this takes time, but you can only start today and it will only grow from there. But being consistent, I mean, we all need to be reminded how many freaking apps are available just to remind us to drink water. So we all need to be reminded on a regular basis. And if it comes from the top down and everyone's has some sort of encouragement to be in that owner mentality, that is a world of a difference.
So I would like to come back to this because I want to talk a little bit about Super Tech, and then also I don't know if you can see it, but my little seal badge, excuse me.
I'm excited to see this.
And
yes.
so we have
in the wild.
We have a couple things that we think can help with what you were talking about, because I mean, you have to control what you can control if they're leaving you, right? And that also has to do with training. But before we get to that, let's talk the average restorer. I got a couple trucks, I got a couple guys, I'm doing some work, I'm doing, I don't know, $500,000 to $1 million-ish, right? Let's go through the checklist of what insurances do I need for that? Because I think a lot of guys, I mean, I learned this over time buying the insurance, and we had a good agent. So I'm certainly no expert like you, but I mean, I think I have figured out over time what that is. And it's funny because I'll talk to other restorers and they'll be like, I don't have that. I don't have that. And I'm thinking, well, dude, you need that. So let's go down the list of what people need.
Love it.
Yeah.
So general liability, that's going to protect your entity. So we're thinking, put your owner hat on when we think about this, right? General liability is protecting your entity in the event you're ever named in suit for bodily injury or property damage. Okay. So you get a suit in the mail, say, hey, I slipped and fell because you guys didn't properly clean this up. I'm naming you in suit. Here's my attorney's information. That's what general liability does. You have defense coverage. You have an attorney instead of paying out of pocket. That's what it embodies. Your coverage basically gives you an attorney through the insurance company, and then you go from there. On that same note, professional liability is going to be also known as errors and omissions, malpractice. All of these are the same, in the same vein. That's going to protect you. There's no bodily injury or property damage, no vases or refrigerators that were thousands of dollars got dented or damaged. But
that's never happened.
No,
I think I'm hitting a sore spot on that.
Have you ever heard us tell the story about the refrigerator with the television in the one door? And of course our guy hits that one door. Okay.
Yep.
It's still a sore spot 10 years later.
As much as a car.
Yeah.
Felt like it. Yeah.
Yep. So an error is, I kind of mentioned this, but something's not properly dried correctly, right? Someone leaves early, you take the dehumidifiers out too early, and all of a sudden, a few months later, you get a call and you say, hey, we've got mold where you guys were working. That's an error. There's been no bodily injury or property damage, no one broke an arm, no refrigerator was broken, but because of your actions, your fee for a service, there was an error. And as a result, you guys need to make it right. So that's what errors and omissions or professional liability handles. So that's where it's, think of fee for a service. Okay. Part of that, in addition to that, pollution liability. Okay. Gases, all of the dirty stuff that we all deal with, talk about, all of that stuff. Most general liability contracts are going to exclude pollution because it could just happen. So my recommendation, and it's very much available, and there's some experts that I work with that are, I'm their client. We put that all in one. So regardless if someone gets injured because of our error, if someone has mold because of our error, or there's a pollution issue, it's all on one policy. That is a very secure way to protect your entity and prevent you guys from going bankrupt from being sued. Okay. So that's like a three-piece suit, and it looks really, really good on you. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Next thing.
Okay. I was going to say, I got two more pieces to add to the suit.
You do. Yep. We've got our employees. We've got workers' compensation. Usually that's top 3 or 4 in the budget. It's very expensive, even if you have no injuries. So we want to make sure we're in the right spot in the event in the event an employee gets injured while working, even if they're in a truck, even if they're on the road on their way to a job. Coverage that protects your entity from your employees. Make sure that it handles 66 2/3 of their weekly wage, pays for all their medical bills, and any disfigurement or anything like that. Okay. So that is super important, required in all states. Even if you have a contractor, you sub something out, maybe you're not great at painting and you sub something out to an uninsured painter who's your cousin and best friend. If they don't have work comp insurance, they get added to your work comp insurance and you pay for them based on payroll. Okay.
Okay.
Property coverage. Think of everything that's in your trucks, everything that's on site at your warehouse. If you're doing any sort of contents, you have to be responsible for all of the property of others. So we've got stuff that's on site in the office. If you guys have an office, you're holding down the fort with your call center. It's not outsourced, all of those computers, etc. In the event there's a fire, but also if someone gets in an accident and they've got 12 dehumidifiers they just picked up from a job, we want to make sure that that's covered. That's not at the office.
So that would be inland marine and Bailey.
You got it, my friend. Rock on, guys.
He was working at.
I've been working it.
I know.
We didn't have any problems. We might have had to dip into that once or twice.
And think of too, stolen, I know that you guys do your very best to prep people or prep your clients for, safety and trucks. But if something gets stolen and there's $20,000 worth of equipment and you can't get to another job site, or you got to say no to another job because of that, we want to touch that real quickly. We want to touch on that. So that's inland marine.
In our world too. So inland marine also, I mean, in addition to that, we often are removing contents and bringing them back to the shop for storage. So you're going to use both inland marine and Bailey's
correct
for that
and
job
Bailey's
as well.
Is when you're responsible for someone else's contents. So you're removing something from a client's location, bringing it back. You're responsible. If anything happens to that, that's what Bailey's coverage is. And they all kind of fall under the property side of things, but it's like, tell me where something happened and how it happened will determine what bucket it falls under.
Right. Yeah. So if you have all of those, am I missing anything?
Well, I would say employment practices, and it might be baked into your policy, but again, we live in a pretty litigious world, and all you need is someone who didn't have a good experience or woke up on the wrong side of the bed. It could be an employee. It could also be a third party, a client that says I was inappropriately addressed and you're going to be named in suit. No bodily injury, no property was damaged. This is employment practices.
Yeah. That could even be behavior of a technician in someone's home.
Correct. And remember too, like, it's not, oh, we go to the judge and we determine if the insurance applies. It's no, we need someone to defend us. We need someone right away, even if at the end of the day, you're not held liable. So I think what you guys do really well, and where your clients in a fixed cost world can really speak to, like, what your customers are able to do, is arm the underwriter or their insurance agent with this information saying, hey, we train on soft skills. I'm going to give you 3 examples of how we conduct ourselves when we're approaching on-site and leaving a client location. This is huge. This is prevention. This is what underwriters are looking for, to say, oh, these people have a pulse on what's happening, even if they're not on site at the warehouse, in the parking lot, doing their morning meetings, right? So employment practices is a huge one. And then if you take any sort of monies from anyone, or even if you just use a system for your CRM to keep track of everyone, and you're using any sort of technology, you deserve a little bit of cyber coverage. It doesn't have to be like, oh gosh, whatever Amazon has, but in the event someone is able to pretend they're you, Eric, and they send emails, they hack into your email system, they pretend they're you, and they're starting to invoice different clients, and those clients send money your way, and it was not the intended person, that money is gone. That's where cyber coverage comes in. So there's a lot of different coverages. You can get a little bit in the nitty gritty, but just someone who understands how you guys are utilizing technology within your business. Even if it's like cyber light, we call it, it's $50,000, $100,000 worth of coverage. It's probably baked into your policy if you have a good policy, but you deserve a little bit of coverage. Again, it's a buffer. You don't want to have to figure out when you're like, how did someone invoice us? And we have $15,000. We thought it was an equipment vendor. We have $15,000 that's lost in cyberspace, and they're telling me about Bitcoin. You don't want to have to be Googling how to find a cyber expert when this is what's happening, and you still have clients calling you. Like, so you want someone who's essentially ready to go on the scene. And that's what a cyber policy should be, is you basically, just like you have an attorney available in the event something happens, you have cyber experts who are going to step in and be an extension of your team.
Yeah. And basically all the insurances we just talked about, I mean, because we don't only have restorers listening. They're pretty much the same ones for plumbing, HVAC, electrical, remodel contractor. It's not that much different.
Especially if, like, I know a lot of home service businesses are still dealing with checks. I mean, we've all
Sure.
seen Catch Me If You Can. Like, it doesn't take much to lose, you know, if you're doing any sort of manual, anything, credit cards, checks, in the event you ever get sued because you are responsible for sharing unintentionally someone else's credit card information, and you get sued because they're, you know,
Yeah.
now they've been robbed, you want that coverage.
Okay.
But
So
yes, not restoration specific. I would say contractor specific, home
home
services.
services too. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some of the things that you and I talked about when we spoke before the podcast of like controlling what we can control. Right.
Mhm.
So, as you know, Larry and I have Super Tech University, and we're actually taking it to the next level. These are little badges, like little
Woo-hoo!
patches that they could put on their uniform, which will signify that
Verification.
they'll get a certificate, and it will certify that they have gone through 6 months or more of daily soft skills and job site behavior training. And we're hoping, this is not an infomercial, by the way, but we're hoping that adds value to people's clients, knowing that they're not just like sicked out on the general public. Right? You know, like there's
Right.
actually, and then we've been partnering with our friend Ed Marchicelli at the Seal. So the Seal is a really cool product too. And anybody listening can use the code BCN or something. I don't know. There's some sort of code where they can get a deal. I don't know what it is. We'll have to put it. Larry's going to put it in the
we'll
show notes.
post that. Yeah, I'll post
But
that.
you know, here they have a name badge, but it's not like, look, anybody can go buy a badge maker, right? You know, there's a QR code, and they can actually, the client could actually go and look up the information about the tech. And then it also would have like, excuse me, with the company, it would show whether they're insured, if they have a business license, their contractor's license, right? Like, so my point is, like, when you put these two things together, you're doing something that 98% of home service contractors are not doing, right? They're not making that investment. Is there something on the insurance side that if one of our clients was doing these, we have a lot of clients doing both.
Right.
Can they get some sort of benefit for that? You know, I mean, it seems like they're doing an awful lot of work because they want their business to be great and run better. But it also is the same stuff that we're kind of talking about. And it seems like if they do that, they should be rewarded. We always felt that way. Like, man, we should be rewarded for all the work we're doing. We weren't.
I have really good news for you.
Okay.
So I want to kind of paint the picture to help you understand how the world of insurance negotiation happens behind the scenes. Because the answer in short is yes. I don't want to bury the lead. So when an underwriter at an insurance company, they're looking back at historical information, and they're like, okay, historically, restoration contractors with a 9014 work comp class code have had X amount of losses and blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
They're actuaries. They're looking at historical information. They appreciate detail, and they want to know the background of why this company, why this home service contractor is superior and will make them more money as an insurance company than someone else that's on their desk or in their inbox. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my job as an insurance agent, and I feel very strongly about this, is the insurance agent is a resource to you, but they also speak the language of underwriters, and their job is to paint the picture and give credit where credit is due on why your company should be receiving the best possible price, the best, broadest coverage, and they are just the winning selection, because insurance companies can't insure everyone. And a lot of you guys might be hearing everything's more expensive right now. And a lot of this has to do, insurance and frickin' bananas, right? This has a lot to do with the reinsurance company. So behind the scenes, all the insurance companies have reinsurers that if shit really hits the fan, they have a reinsurance company that's backing them.
Mm-hmm.
These reinsurance companies are tightening the purse strings big time which means when an underwriter and previously could write 50 accounts, maybe now they're only able to write 30 accounts. So they have a slew of options ahead of them to say, what is going to make my insurance company the most money? And what is the best option that I have? And I, A, don't want to lose my job, and I, B, don't want to get hit with a big claim. And so I'm going to evaluate all of these different data points. And there's two pieces I believe that are really important. Safety is one of them, which quite honestly, your insurance dollar, it's baked in. You have a lot of access to safety trainings.
Yep.
If you're not tapping into those, like,
yeah, we had that with our insurer, and it was like, it was a godsend to us. They gave us an illness and injury prevention program. They would check everything. It was, you got to have that.
That's the number one, right? The number one is safety. But I would also argue it's kind of like a Venn diagram. We've got safety, and then we've also got how is the company operating, not just from a profitability standpoint.
Right.
You have boots on the ground. How is this company more superior or a better option for the insurance company to select than someone else? And this is an insurance application. You guys are probably filling out, oh, we do X amount of asbestos removal, X amount of remediation, et cetera. But the insurance agent is really the one who's like, let me tell you the story, underwriter, of why this company is a superior option. I bet you 95% of people have never even seen an insurance application or a submission. And you guys really deserve credit where credit is due. So if you're partnering with SuperTech, if you're putting effort and energy into making sure that, yes, your team is operating safety and we have toolbox talks and we're doing check maintenance on all of our trucks, et cetera. But also what we talked about is there's a lack of control from an underwriter perspective if people are out in the field. But if they have the reassurance that you guys have a service manager training, a tech training, that your customer service team is following up on stuff, you got to paint the picture for them and tell them how freaking awesome you are.
Well, you need an agent who's acting as your advocate, not just getting quotes. They're not the same thing.
Without a doubt. So I pulled like three of your, I kind of connected the dots on like three areas: general liability, property, and employment practices. Those are three areas that I do truly feel very strongly that like SuperTech has a direct connection with, because from a general liability standpoint, you guys are talking about how do we protect the area that we're in? How do we prevent damaging a really expensive, refrigerator
door?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do we not
With
knock
the
into
TV.
the refrigerator door that costs $20K? How are we making sure, even just IICRC, like I feel very confident, and I don't have numbers to support this yet, but even just the IICRC trainings, like I'm sure a lot of underwriters are unaware that their clients or their potential insureds are IICRC certified. That is a huge deal.
By the way, 29 weeks of SuperTech University gets every person watching 14 CEC credits with the IICRC.
Yeah.
So that right there, like, they love information. That is how they make decisions. That is how they give you rates.
See, did you hear that, Larry? They like details. They're precipitous, or whatever the hell that word was this morning.
They're very into details. Exactly. The word is
Right?
prepense.
Right.
Yeah, they're
Right.
prepensive.
Deliberate with details.
Big fans of details. That's how they operate. So it's just advocating for yourself. And I know we're thinking about, a lot of times insurance just goes into the fixed cost lane and, oh shit, our stuff's going up, or we have, we hired more people, or we took on new jobs, our payroll's up. Therefore, that's a direct correlation with our insurance costs. In my opinion, increased payroll means increased opportunity for negotiation. Now, you as the owner are not necessarily talking directly with the underwriter, but that's the value of having someone who understands your business and is advocating for you and saying the reason that payroll is increasing is because we've partnered with X, Y, and Z company. We're the first call for any sort of property management issues in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we now understand, and we have actually plotted out exactly what all of those buildings look like. So we're going to be able to do the best job for that property manager. Our techs are already aware. You're preventing issues with injury. They're unaware of the buildings. Like, this is information that these underwriters are salivating for. And I guarantee that 90% of them have never even received like a safety program from a contractor, let alone that amount of detail. So in short, I mean, you deserve credit where credit is due. Same with property. You guys are huge proponents of not parking in the driveway of a client's house. It's so simple. Not parking in the driveway, but parking a little bit away means you can keep an eye on the vehicle, that if it gets stolen, it's going to be sometimes $40K to replace easily, making sure that you guys have a maintenance program for all of your property. You're not dealing with all of this stuff that hasn't been touched in a while. There's not frayed electrical cords. And then again, employment practices. We've got some hostile times. People are ready to sue. So the fact that you guys have a very consistent program, and there is a lot of deliberate reason for how we interface with a client, how we are respectful on site, that stuff is majorly important to underwriters.
Sounds like this is a training course for insurance agents to advocate for their clients.
I mean, I don't, like, who knows? Maybe I'm gonna be picking your brain about how do I do that. Maybe that'll be
Maybe
my
that's
my next spinoff. But
Yeah, exactly.
but
Well, yeah,
I'm
but the
just
thing is
saying-
that you wrote, I love that you wrote in the email to us, insurance 201, right? So, which is basically that your agent should have all the information of the cool things that you're doing to make your company great, but then that agent then should, armed with that information, then take that to the insurer or the carrier to start negotiating. Did I get that right?
Yeah. I would say probably one of the biggest opportunities for a better experience and a better price at the end of the day is remembering that on the contracting side, in most cases, you guys are setting the price. Your agent does not set the price.
Right.
The insurance company does. So the job of the agent, and I don't think a lot of people think this way, there's probably a lot that goes into that, but the job of the agent is to make sure that the insurance companies that are the right fit for your contracting business are basically battling for your business, because you have shown each of these insurance companies how awesome this client is, and you want them to work to figure out who is going to be the best spot for them. And that means who's got the sharpest pencil and who's coming to the table with the best possible price with the best coverage, who's bringing the best value. And I just feel like that's a missed opportunity. And a lot of times you're just kind of used to what you've had, or it's your buddy and they've been doing insurance for a while. But if you only know that you've had one option, you only have one option, this is who writes electrical contractors in, San Diego, or this is the only insurance company that writes, restoration companies in Denver. No, there's more than one. The pool might be small, the more hazardous your operations, but that is absolutely not true. And so that's why it's important for someone to know and have a pulse on the marketplace to really know who those insurance carriers are. And you're essentially saying, I'm the current agent, I control this account, and I am going to market on behalf of my client. I'm going to give you all the information you need well in advance, so you're not last to the table. And from there, you just make sure that you are basically saying, hey, do we have another 5 points? They're doing this training. They've all been doing this for 29 weeks. What kind of credit is available for workers' comp and for property? Like, that is the job of the agent. And if you're not getting that, then you deserve to access someone, whether it's in your area or someone like myself. You deserve someone who's going to advocate for you.
Yeah.
No, that's a big deal. No.
Yeah,
Those
look,
are
I mean,
great.
I was the person who did the insurance at our company, and I mean, we had good we had good agents, you know, but I don't know if they were taking it to this level. Honestly, they weren't digging. They certainly weren't digging into my business and asking me all the things that we were doing. Because
Yeah.
all the things that we talked about with Super Tech, that was just our daily Monday through Friday. You know, I mean, that's what we did. But nobody ever asked me like, "Hey, how do you train the guys?" Or you know, no, they just be like, "How
Yeah,
many
deep
vans do
dive.
you
This is a
have?
good.
What are you
Yeah,
moving? What's your revenue?" You know, it was great, but it was basic. And trust me, we would have loved to paid a little less.
yeah, makes a big difference.
You know,
Absolutely.
so all right, Kate. Well, look, we don't want to take your whole day, but we would like everybody to know how to get a hold of you. And we would highly encourage anybody if they're looking at their home service company and getting ready to get more insurance quotes to call Kate. So, Kate, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, thank you. I do work with companies nationwide, so long as you're domiciled in the US. So I should have mentioned that, even though I'm outside of Chicago. I'm on Instagram at resto.resources. You can find me on LinkedIn, Kate Scully Krebsbach. And then our website is scullyinsuranceGroup.com.
All right, go check it out.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep. We'll put all these notes, and also I'm going to attach in the notes is you had all kinds of attachments that you sent us previously with checklists and such. It's all going to be attached in the pod notes and the podcast notes, and everybody can enjoy that and reach out to you as much as possible. So we appreciate your time very much, and you have a wonderful day, Kate.
All right, thanks,
Thank
Kate.
you, guys.